Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program, Advancing the Cause. Tonight, I want to tender an excuse for my comrade, my sister, my friend, the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AAMP, General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union, who would normally be the host of this program. So I now tender an apology for her absence because of reasons best known to her tonight. Tonight we are going to address the issue Guyana on the road to destruction. May I repeat, Guyana on the road to destruction. And the format of the presentation is going to be very simple. I'm going to first of all look at the statement as issued by the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AAMP, and General Secretary of the GTU. Then I'm going to look at the continued strike, a document, the continued strike action by the Guyana Teachers Union. Then I'm going to look at the poor physical conditions of schools across this country. Then we are going to look at the problems at CPC and all its centers. Then we are going to look at the failure of NSORD. Then we are going to look at the school board secretariat, the high-handed approach to every single thing. Then we are going to look at the PPP Pitbull, Egel, as he went sometime to Peter's Hall to play his bully game. And then we are going to look at some regional issues. And then we are going to do the conclusion. And so, viewers, with your permission, this is not going to take very long, but I think it is going to be important for us to be able to listen to what I'm reading, because this is a very important issue. And so I now read this document from the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AAMP, and General Secretary of the GTU. Colleagues, good afternoon. I was trying to restrain myself from commenting on this issue, but because of the mandate that was entrusted upon me, I can't escape. In the words of Barack Obama, and I quote, "Nobody is going to give you anything that you have not earned. Nobody cares how you tough your upbringings were. Nobody cares if you suffer discrimination, disrespect, or hurt. You have to remember that whatever you are going through, it pales comparison to the hardship previous generations, teachers more particularly, endured. And if they overcame them, then we can overcome them too." End of quote. The Guyana Teachers Union finds callous and insensitive the actions demonstrated by a few irresponsible supporters of the PPP government, in full view of the Minister of Labor and the Minister of Education, to be crass, distasteful, disgusting, and immature at the recently concluded 32nd Delegates Congress. Their action, in collaboration with their leaders, have given a clear signal that this government is anti-workers, that is to say, anti-teachers, irrational, uncaring, and unthankful, simply because they have no clue and are out of touch with the challenges teachers face every single day. It is therefore safe for us to conclude that this government is wicked and vindictive and will hold no bar to castigate anyone or any organization who can call them out on their incompetence or stand up to them for their failure to engage. This crass act at their highest decision making forum was clearly an indication that they had nothing of substance to discuss, which could have led to making serious decisions to impact the lives on Guyanese, and in particular, teachers. More, it is clear as day that educators are not valued in this country and that education is not their priority. May I remind this government that it is the very educators who have kept the golden arrowhead flying high in the Caribbean and further afield. The very same educators who kept our learners engaged during the COVID-19 pandemic, sacrificing our families and risking our lives. Yes, the same educators who you have been using to distribute your cash grants, etc. But you now find it funny to make mock of us because we are demanding that you engage us at the table for our failure, for your failure, for our fair share rather. Your insensitive mockery denotes that of lawlessness, shameful, disgraceful, and reckless bunch. The GTU has taken note that your callousness and calls for an apology. In the meanwhile, our members will continue to stand resolutely and resolved in the face of an uncaring government as we blaze the trail for equity, equality, and respect. Ms. McDonald, AA General Secretary, GTU. And so, viewers, I want to make a comment because that statement came out of a situation in which a few members, irresponsible or what have they, to have staged and demonstrated through a skit some level of mockery to our teachers. And as you go across this country, you would recognize from that date up to today that our teachers are not taking good what I would have demonstrated to them as it relates to that skit as presented at the PPP's 32nd Congress. And so I wish to make a few points on this statement and on that skit. So the first statement I want to make is that we have seen fully that the PPP is demonstrating party paramountcy at the highest level. And so what they would have done, in addition to that derogatory play that they would have demonstrated there, that they would have decorated, and in some cases we can say that they would have allowed themselves to be able to so decorate the National Convention Center with PPP flags. And that building, so to speak, that building is a state building. That compound is a state compound. And we can only conclude that the PPP has hand, or they want to have hand on every single thing in this country as a form of control. And that is why they believe wholly and solely on this concept of democratic centralism. And because of that, they would have so demonstrated the level of paramountcy that they have, and they would have decorated a state building, a state compound, the Ortachong Convention Center, with the PPP flags to hold their 32nd PPP Congress. If this is not an I pass to the Guyanese people. And then Gail Teixeira ran out and said that they are going to fly their flag anywhere at any time. But you recall that some time ago at the Public Accounts Committee meeting, when I was on the virtual platform responding to some questions, and I dare not say questions because Ejel and Teixeira, they do not ask questions. They try to use the bully tactics. But as I said to them then and now, as I repeat and would always say, that bully tactics is for the PPP people, not for me or from anybody of the PNC or the coalition, so to speak. And so Teixeira was mad when she saw me dressed in a purple shirt, and when she saw further a button of the face of our founder leader, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, she got further mad. And when she looked at the library and she saw the faces of 3 former presidents of this country, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, Hugh Desmond Hoyt, and David Granger, she became more annoyed. So if she was so annoyed and I was listening and answering the questions, if questions, so to speak again, from the confines of my own home, and she had the temerity to say publicly that the PPP is going to fly their flag any place at any time. Now, what kind of people are we dealing with? If this is not a situation of being bullies in our country, then we cannot allow ourselves to go any further. So if she was annoyed then with me wearing what I had to wear and the decoration of my library in my own home, why she was not so annoyed when the PPP put up their flag at a state property and a state building? But I guess that somebody is going to ask the question, maybe at the session tomorrow in Parliament, somebody is going to raise the question as to why is it they use a state property and a state building and decorated that state property and state building with PPP flag. So I call out to Teixeira with her thoughts on how people dress and decorate their homes, what she has to say about this decoration. And so, let me speak quickly about this. The PPP changed the quorum at the Public Accounts Committee in an effort to so allow them to have an upper hand. And that upper hand is they must be present for any session to take place. Prior to that change, any 3 persons could have formed the quorum and the business of the day would have gone on. This has since changed, and there have been tens of meetings, more than 100 meetings. I want to believe that they have not attended. So what is it? It is party paramountcy. It is a government that is in there utilizing state resources to their advantage and satisfaction in an effort to so trample upon those who do not believe in the ideology they believe in. And we have to take note, and we have to take note of that. So I thought it fit that I should make mention of that play and the spill-off effect it would have had on all our teachers and people across this country. Recently, it might have been yesterday, the Guyana Teachers Union issued a statement to all our head teachers and their staff, meaning the teachers. And the subject would have been, and this is my second issue that I want to deal with, continued strike action. And so I'm going to quickly, before the purpose of us better understanding what is happening, to very quickly read this piece of correspondence, which would not be long, and then I'm going to make a few comments. A decision was taken by the Guyana Teachers Union on the insistence of its members to call strike action due to failed collective bargaining between the Ministry of Education, the Government of Guyana, and the Guyana Teachers Union. The union views the government's refusal to engage in collective bargaining as a breach of our labor laws and an insult to our integrity of our teachers in Guyana. We believe that enough patience was exhibited by the union to allow the Ministry of Education and the government to allow at a satisfactory position regarding salary increases for teachers. The repeated salary impositions in December 2021, 22, and 23 are a clear indication that government is unwilling to engage the Guyana Teachers Union meaningfully. The strike will officially commence on Thursday, 9th of May, 2024, and continue until further notice. May I read this part, which is very important to all our head teachers and teachers across this country. If you are not listening and you have some colleague that is listening, I hope that this message is going to be transferred to those who are not listening. And this is the part I want to read. The strike will officially, I want to underscore that word, officially recommence on Thursday, which is be tomorrow, 9th of May, 2024, and will continue until further notice. So any guidance from tomorrow would come from the Guyana Teachers Union, the Executive Council. And so tomorrow, our head teachers and teachers, based on the circumstances, are expected to continue the strike action. And so, what is a strike? Just for the purpose of the exercise and for what is stated on the piece of correspondence, a refusal to work organized by a body of employees as a form of protest, typically in an attempt to gain a concession or concessions from the employer. And here it is the Guyana Teachers Union, the Ministry of Education, and by extension, the Government of Guyana. It is a collective organized season of slowdown of work by employees to force an acceptance of their demands by the employer. GTU calls on all teachers to join this justified action since our rights are being infringed by employers. This decision is supported not only by the General Council, but our private opinion poll among teachers and civil society minded persons across Guyana indicates that teachers nationwide have full support of this action. The union asked teachers to do the following during this period. One, do not report for work on the 9th of May 2024 until further notice. And I'm reading for the document. Do not listen to threats. And that this is something they are accustomed to and they are good at. Do not listen to threats that will come from high offices. You have a right to strike as an employee. The GTU has followed all protocols which makes this strike action legitimate. Head teachers supporting the strike may hand over school keys to most senior teachers on staff who will be at work, and where the entire staff will be on strike, school keys must be taken to the education department on Wednesday, May 8, 2020. Well, that is today. If the entire school, and some schools are going, all members of staff are going, I guess you would have handed your keys to the Department of Education. Follow closely releases from the union's executive as we go forward. Teachers throughout the length and breadth of Guyana are asked to support this justified action taken by your union to ensure that collective bargaining process is pursued between the Ministry of Education, the Government of Guyana, and the Teachers Union. Yours respectfully, Executive. So, viewers, I would have just read to you a document that would have been issued by the executive of the Guyana Teachers Union in relation to the strike action, the continuation rather of the strike action tomorrow. And what I would have read is very clear to all our head teachers and our head teachers. We ask of you now to take the necessary action and to give the necessary support to the Guyana Teachers Union. So, what would have been happening? There would have been a court action, and the court ruled on three things, mainly three things. One, that the strike over the 29-30 days would have been legitimate or legal. The second thing that the court would have ruled on, that for the days in which teachers would have been on the strike line or the picket line, that those days are going to be counted as legal and they have to be paid for those days. And the third court decision would have been that the Ministry of Education must continue to make the necessary deductions from our teachers, and to so refund or pay that sum of money that they would have deducted to the Guyana Teachers Union. So I say this to indicate to you that in the first phase of the strike action, the court would have allowed the teachers to understand in a very clear sense that it was a win for the teachers. And so this second phase would now be able to allow us to do a number of things. And so what is happening? These are some of the challenges that would have been faced. These are some of the challenges that would have been faced. One, in Region 2, there was a particular, I may say that there is still a particular public place, a state property, north of the Cottonfield Secondary School and east of the Department of Education. When our teachers gathered there, in the first phase of this strike, the REDO organized the Red Oak Region 2, organized with the regional administration and the Guyana Police Force to disallow them from being there. And the Guyana Police Force, the Red Oak, and the Special Branch, they were very active. But they did not realize then that they were able to meet in those positions because it was been teachers who allowed them to be able to meet in those positions. So if by chance they can sign their name, and I guess they can, or if by chance they can spell their name, and I guess they can, it would have been teachers who would have been responsible for them. And this has not been hard on them. They have been doing their work. But the way they would have been doing their work, that is to say the Red Oak, the staff, the police, and the regional administration, and not only in this region, but across this country, they would have been very discriminatory against our teachers. And so we have to take note of that. This is what also happened, and I'm saying what would have happened during the first phase of this strike, because all our teachers were slow. What took place and what is it they have to face and how they can face it up. There was a daily monitoring of all our schools by police officers in their clothing, in their uniform, and by the plainclothes officers who were from the Special Branch and from the CID, because we know them very well. We know all the cars, we know the numbers, and we are making them aware that we know their numbers, we know the cars, and we are going to be on the lookout for them, because discriminatorily, they are acting in a very discriminate manner against our teachers. And this is further supported by the Red Oak of this region and other regions across this country. And we have to take note of that. We have to take serious note of that. So teachers who would have been on strike, they went on that strike because 3 levels of the collective bargaining failed. And the first level would have been the bilateral talks, discussion. And that had to be between the Ministry of Education and the Guyana Teachers Union. Those talks broke down simply because there was not any care or love for teachers or the union. And so they got the Ministry of Education, the Permanent Secretary, the Chief Education Officer, the Minister of Education, kept out of that situation and did not allow that first phase to go through. And so that phase broke down in the collective bargaining process. And then the second phase would have been conciliation. And that conciliation had to be organized and facilitated by the Minister of Labor, a lame duck, the Chief Labor Officer, a mere absence from any knowledge of his work, and they failed in tremendous ways to allow the second phase to have gone through. And then the third phase also, which should have been arbitration, that also failed because of ill-conceived ideas by the Minister of Education and the Minister of Labor, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, the Chief Labor Officer, and the Chief Education Officer. And because of those situations, all those levels in the collective bargaining failed. And so we went, the Guyana Teachers Union, allowed our teachers to be able to express themselves in the form of that strike for about 29 to 30 days. And good faith did not prevail And so that is why we are here in this, the second phase of this strike, which would commence tomorrow. But I say to you that during the first phase, our teachers came out in their numbers. They give full support. The major stakeholders of education, and that is not the Department of Education and the regional administration, the business community, supported the strike action each and every day that the teachers were out there. So we want at this stage to express that gratitude and that thanks to them as it relates to the support that would have been given to our teachers as it relates to the strike action. So, viewers, tomorrow, the 9th of May, the Guyana Teachers Union would have called upon all our teachers and our teachers to continue the strike action. And you might have heard already the teachers in different regions and in Georgetown what would have been the strategy where you would assemble and what would be the format of these days to follow as it relates to strike action. And I ask all our teachers, fear nothing, fear nothing. Because I say to you, if you don't know, that in 2018, 19 thereabout, I want to be 18 rather, when the Guyana Teachers Union took strike action, I was then a regional executive officer in Region 3. And every single day, I went out on the picket line. I supported the teachers there. I engaged the union. And then there was a gentleman who was then the chief education officer. His name was Marcel Hudson. While we were demonstrated in front of the Department of Education, he ran into the office. He was chief education officer. And he and the Redo ran out of the office. And they went to visit schools. And not a word to our teachers. No day this Redo in this region or any other region ever went out and speak to our teachers in any form to allow them to bring any comfort to them as it relates to their job. And that is the kind of demons we are dealing with in the education system. And so we have to take note of that, and we have to be able to deal with that as we go forward. We go forward. So viewers, I want now to deal with the poor infrastructure in our schools across this country. And in summary, I want to say to you that very many of the new buildings, the new school buildings, are falling apart. And I say this to indicate it to you as you go around this country, that very many of the schools, if not all the new schools that they boast about building, are falling apart. And they need to take stock of that. And there was a senior education official who went to a certain secondary school, and I don't want to disclose the office of that senior officer, but he went to that secondary school in an effort to so moderate the C6 Spanish orals. And he was busy going around the school, the secondary school, taking out all the defects, all the cracks, all the deficiencies, and he was sending them to a senior, maybe the most senior education official in this country. And he indicated that if he had to, by any chance, be in a particular region, he would not have allowed that school to open. And so if that is the case, then I want to believe that the CEO is in possession of that information. We are told, as a summary, that about 60% of our schools in this country have no proper running water, an important element in the life of our teachers and children, pupils, and students at the schools in this country. And I urge and I ask the Ministry of Education, because we continue to fall apart in the education system, that they may move swiftly and get these things corrected. In our schools, there are tremendous defects in the electrical system. And the day would come, and God forbid, that this might result in something that we do not want. But you don't expect our teachers and our head teachers to see this. That is why we have visits by the officers of the Department of Education. And they have a way of doing a structured report. And one of the things they report on is the physical infrastructure of the school. And so they have to get it and fix it. Because we are in the process now of creating that register of all these defects. And we are going to make known to the entire public, school by school. Our schools are faced, again, about 50% poor sanitary facilities, an important element in the life of our teachers, our children, our pupils, our students. And so we need to take a serious look at that. Windows and doors are falling apart in some of these schools. There are tremendous leaking roofs. The other couple of days we had rain, and schools were complaining, their teachers were complaining. Teachers were complaining, parents were complaining that roofs are leaking in very many schools across this country. And we need to take stock of that. Not us, meaning the Ministry of Education, the Departments of Education. And so those are some of the things as reported to us across this country as it relates to the poor infrastructure of our schools. There are some minor issues that we do not want to bring to bear, but when the time would have come, it would give us an opportunity to expose. So we bring these things to the table because they boast about the billions of dollars they spend on education. But the reward and results are not just and true. And therefore, it begs the question, is it true that they are spending this sum of money that they are talking about in a very real sense on education? Or is it that they are allocating and appropriating sums to education, but in the final analysis, these sums of money or appropriation are so siphoned off and going elsewhere to support the government in other areas that they see fit in this country? So the next thing I want to talk about, because a number of persons, and mind you, this is a committee that I'm talking about, not me, Dennis Jaikaran, but a committee across this country, that we allow our personnel in education to so say to us, not report, but to say to us what are some of the things that are happening in the education system. So at CPC, Turkine, and all the satellite centers across this region, we have serious problems. And these problems that we have are common to CPC, Turkine, and all the satellite centers. And one of the things would have been serious supersession. Junior persons are trampling on senior persons. Promotions are made by the night, so to speak, and junior persons are promoted in front of senior persons. Right here in Region 2, and people have to be very, very fair and bold when they make certain statements. The head of Center CPC here, may I coin the word, she's a waste of time. Tremendous waste of time. And I want to believe that so many of them who would have been seconded because of their friendship and their affiliation to the PPP, that they were given that opportunity to go there and serve. But I'm coming to MSWORD and the other places, the school board, and all those PPP cronies who would have been placed there and are really, really square pegs in wrong holes, can't function, disrupting and destroy the education system. And our teachers who are working hard, they are denying our teachers the right to earn true living wage, a livable wage, so to speak, to allow them to be able to move on in this life. But they want them to be paupers. And they have pauperized a lot of people. And Jack Day would have said that the PNC pauperized people. But it is he and his PPP cronies that pauperize people in this country. And they are now pauperizing our teachers. And they must know that. And you must know that you cannot be fearful of that man. You have to stand up to him. So CPC is in serious trouble. Supersession, poor sanitary and facilities and working condition. These are information that come to us. Poor lighting conditions, right? Materials are not available for lecturers to be able to dispense with the curriculum in which they have been entrusted to deliver. And so when these things happen, we disallow our teachers who are in training to be able to have the correct training, to be able to have the correct levels of materials for their training, and to enable them to be good educators, classroom teachers, facilitators of the education system. And when these things do not happen at CPC, at Turkine, on the satellite branches, then it is telling us a very serious story. But here this one. I do not know who were the persons. And this is not to cast aspersion and blame on the principal of CPC at Turkine, because I guess that person, I don't know who is the person, might not have had an opportunity to so structure the application forms for persons to go into training college. And that form is a mess. Is a total disgrace. It is a disaster in the education system. And what is happening? You ask your teachers or your cohorts or your applicants at the end of it to say what level of training they want. But at the very beginning, you have not indicated to them. The form is a trash, so to speak. It proves the very unprofessional level in which our training colleges, the level of professional decorum would have been declined to the extent that some of us who were or are still teachers, education officers, good people, so to speak, are very fearful that there's going to be a total collapse of this system because we do not have the level of management from the minister right down, because she seems to be putting people, promoting people into offices they cannot function in. I now deal a little bit, because all this information we receive. NSWORD. NSWORD is a very important organ, element, department, if it so speaks, to the Ministry of Education. Because there are a number of things that are supposed to have and done at NSWORD. But for the past 4 years, everything would have collapsed at NSWORD. Because the persons who are placed there do not understand clearly the functioning of NSWORD. And so the director that they put there now, we are told, and we very well believe that, is not adequately, and we do not want to say qualified, is not adequately experienced to be able to manage NSWORD. And there again at NSWORD, the appointment of the director of NSWORD would have been tremendous supersession in the public service. And I understand that that person who is head in NSWORD was never a senior teacher in the school system. And so what are we doing to the system? Are we filling NSWORD, another agency of the Ministry of Education, with persons who are unfit to perform duties? And so the end result is very dire to what education is all about in this country. And so not only is there serious supersession at NSWORD and persons climbing, not physically, on each other, trampling on the rights of persons who very well know the work, but are not considered friends, families, and favorites of the PPP, are so trampled upon. And supersession is the order of the day also at NSWORD, because the director has no direction in which I don't know if it's a he or she wants to go. And so they are sailing. And they are right to sail because they are next to the Atlantic Ocean there. So if they sail, they might very well end up in the Atlantic because they continue to sail. And that might be a very good place for them, because they are doing nothing to help this education system. Nothing at all to help this education system. And so for the past couple of years, there has been no relevant curriculum guide developed by NSWORD. There has been no review of relevant textbooks. There has been no writing of specialized booklets. And NSWORD would have had to be the place during this period of the Venezuela-Guyana controversy to have allowed them to be able to produce tons and tons of booklet, so educating the Guyanese population, our children, our teachers, our parents, as to this whole controversy, but not one line came out of NSWORD. And why this is so? Because the director has no sense of direction. And some of our member staff may be the same thing. And those who are trying are superseded and trampled upon. So NSWORD, an important organ of the Ministry of Education, is in serious trouble. But this ministry, this government, is not about caring, and they rush about the place. We care. And we care so much is that because we care so much, that for us to get in some part of this country some kind of grant, whatever they call it, you have to buy some kind of what you call it, hot dog. And lo and behold, a headmaster is doing this. A headmaster. What kind of leaders the PPP is producing? And that is not to cast blame and aspersion on our head teachers. It is a few of them who power would have been given to their hand, and they are wielding that power. But I say to them, they have to account for the delivery of the curriculum. They don't have to account to Freedom House as they are doing for their stewardship. And they must know that. And they must behave as professionals. And so I want now to turn to the school board secretariat. The school board secretariat is a disaster in the Ministry of Education. When the concept of the school board secretariat or school boards were conceived, all of the other boards that followed fashioned the format of their operations from the President's College Act and the President's College Board. And so that format allowed for the existing boards across this country to be able to be comprised of persons that can make a meaningful contribution to the school in which that particular board, the institute, or whatever, or wherever those boards exist. But it is not happening. All those boards are politically charged and comprised of political people from the PPP who do not understand where their head is or where their foot is. And they are put on boards in this country to help our principals and our teachers to manage their institution. And because they are a failure, I don't think our schools are failures, our institutes are failures. Because our principals and our head teachers know exactly what they have to do. And right here in Essequibo, once upon a time there was a board. And that board was managed by a gentleman who they claim was a teacher. But he broke that board up in so many parts. And there was another gentleman who had nothing, no idea of what human resources would have been. And he was head of the human resource committee. And he destroyed that institution. Because I understand, and I don't know, it was told, and we can only believe, that this particular gentleman suffered some time ago and is still suffering from a severe mental disorder. And so I think he needs to be corrected. I don't know the board, and I don't know which board they were talking about, but I was listening. So what is happening with the school board secretariat? They are busy making administrative appointments. And when they do these things, all administrative appointment rather, you are denying our teachers who are adequately experienced and qualified to be able to have an opportunity to apply. And because you do these administrative appointments, and not only school board alone, in some secondary schools, you completely rule out our experienced and qualified persons. And you did not, or you have not given them a chance, rather, to make their input by virtue of an application form and to be interviewed, to be shortlisted, and to be able to be appointed. And so they do these things because the Ministry of Education see it fit that they should place PPP cronies as their teachers by virtue of administrative appointment. And they are making a mess of these schools. They are making a mess because they place them there. And they have no idea what education, delivery, management, accountability is all about. And they make a mess. They destroy the education system and the school in which they were placed in administrative positions. And so this very telling situation, we need to look at it. And if we do not look at it, we are going to continue to break up the system. A number of things were told, and we still have to confirm that. We are told that the head of the school board secretariat lives in the QC compound. Big fancy house, 24-hour guards. He has a special vehicle and driver assigned to him. And at his place of work, he has 24-hour guards in his office and around this place. Not his place within his place at work, I think is 21 breakdown. And so that is very good. If our teachers can have those facilities, then it would be a change in the education system. But giving all these things to the coordinator of the school board secretariat would not bring relief to this education system. What you give to our teachers would bring relief. What you hand to our teachers would cause them to perform at a maximum. But mind you, before I move and I slip this point, let us make this point. After our teachers went on that 29 or 30 days strike, and they returned to school, note this, I want our viewers to know this, and they returned to school, they were able to complete all their SBAs, to submit them on time, and with a level of accuracy and efficiency. And there was no need for the minister who's bulked up to say that she had to ask for extension. She didn't have that opportunity because our teachers performed extraordinarily well after they went back to school as normal. And during the COVID, they performed extraordinarily well to the risk of their lives and that of their family, to just deliver to the cohorts in all our schools, nursery, primary, and secondary school. And this is the way our teachers are being treated in an oil-rich Guyana, where 1% of our people are enjoying the riches of this country, and our teachers are trampled upon without any livable wage. So that I brought in that when I was speaking on the question of the school board secretariat and the poor management, the level of administrative appointment they are making, the facilities granted to the coordinator. And mind you, facilities granted is what we are alleging would have taken place. And so I want to turn my attention very quickly. So, and then I'm going to make some conclusion. But before I do that, I want to say to you that I want to deal with this matter before I go on to that, because I have a couple minutes to, and I want to make maximum use of it. Yesterday or today, the PPP bulldog, Ejil, somebody said he's a bishop. He's a bishop. He went with his very bully attitude as normal, very discriminatory and vindictive attitude to some of the people in Peter's Hall this morning or yesterday. A minister of government distributing letters to people to move. What level have we gone to in this country? Do we not have professional officers? Or these ministers are mere glorified messengers of the PPP government? And because they are so glorified in delivering messages and letters and being pit bulls and pit dogs and what have you, being very bully in their attitude. One is Ejel. Went there and spoke to a lady, a pensioner, in a very aggressive way. And he was so annoyed and upset that they were filming him. That is the order of the day. You come to my home. I don't know who you are, because the lady asked, who are you? I am Minister Ejel. Who is Minister Ejel? What is minister about you? What is bishop about you? And you behave in such a derogatory way, removing the people from the seawalls, the Georgetown seawall, breaking up the people home at Moko, destroying the people homes at Linden, building roads that are not standing up. And you call yourself Minister Ejel? And the people are right to say it is on record that you're a bully. And everybody around this country know that you're a bully. And that you get through with what you want to get through with mere level of bullyism and not any level of professional conduct that would so afford the office of a minister. But we are going to play that tape later on, not in this program, another program, so that he can't doubt it. And so people are going to be aware of his kind of bullyism and the pit dog mentality that he has, so that he can get through with what he wants. But I'm asking every single community, whenever he presents himself with that bullyism and that bully attitude, respond to him, stand up to him, and be able to clear your ground. So I want to turn very quickly to some regional issues. One of the things I want to say, because it is worrying people at the regional office, Region 2. They have indicated to me, I don't know, that there are 2 retired persons here that are re-employed. One is the EPMA, and this one is the PPU. And they have indicated to me that these persons are sleeping away every single day on their place of work. They have also indicated to me that these persons, while acting or performing such a duty, did not then, and still not at this time, adequate qualifications to be appointed in those positions. But they were appointed. And they are retired, and they are back there. They are sleeping on the job. And they are denying our young people adequately qualified to take up such position. We need to look at that. We are told, and we very well believe that there's a senior official of the Department of Health Region 2 And that since 2018 that person was supposed to be 55 years and to have retired. And to date, she's still on the job. Or rather, that person is still on the job. And that person has not yet retired. So I want to know what is the age of retirement. I know what obtains in the public service. Some would go at 55 and some would go at 60. But based on what this person would have been employed as, that person has to come off at 55. And since if 2018 that person was supposed to come off, I wonder what is happening and why is it that person is still on the job. And so we need to take a serious look at that in terms of, I understand that that person has no level of qualification, but with years of experience and being able to play the game like persons at the regional administration. You know when to switch your coins to suit the situation. And so that is happening. We are told also, and we very well believe it, that is total discrimination in the seated process as it relates to our teachers who go to a teachers meeting. And at the last teachers meeting, we are told that the Redo of this region, Region 2, well, a DO performing the duties as Redo, was sitting on an executive chair while all our hard-working teachers were sitting on hard plastic chairs. Is this not discrimination? Is not this not telling our teachers, like they play at the convention center, that they fit nothing or they are worth nothing? These are little things that we have to take and look at. So we need to look at this. We need to turn very quickly about trenches that are cleaned in this region manually and mechanically. We are told that trenches that were awarded persons to clean manually, they do not clean these trenches but are paid. This is something that the regional administration should look at. And I guess the PS regional development would look at it. He's new, but he must get out there and do his work if he is fit to be there. And so some of these trenches that are programmed to clean manually and paid manually are cleaned mechanically and they still receive payment. So we need to look at that. We are also told that the senior personnel of the engineer department, that he has 6 trenches, his wife has 3, his son has 3. And so we need to look at that, right? And this is a man I understand who knows nothing about aggregates. Aggregates, I don't know. I was just told that he knows nothing about aggregates. But he is the man who is checking these roads and all these things at 6, 7 o'clock in the night. But I'm telling you this because when these things happen, we do not get quality service. And when we do not get quality service, we must call on this oil-rich government, this PPP government, and their cronies who they place in places and can't function to be able to account in a very special way to these things here. So, something else that was brought to our attention is that they are members of staff of the RDC, their spouses, their children, who get contracts in all different forms. That is discrimination. And all these people we are told are PPP people. So that all these contracts go to one particular set of people. And when these things go to one particular people, it would allow us, those of us, rather the wider community, not to benefit from these kinds of things that are there. So Viewers, in closing, I want to say that tomorrow is a very important day. It is the start of the second phase of the strike action by the Guyana Teachers Union. And at this stage, I want to again urge all our head teachers and our teachers to ensure that you give your full support tomorrow and to continue to give that support because your union is fighting. Your union members are in the trenches, so to speak, in an effort to allow all of us, all of you rather, to have a livable wage. And in closing, I want to say that in the next program, I will deal with the public service and the financial infractions and irregularities of the Sub-Treasury Department and the system of award of contracts. Let me say, I will deal with the public service and the financial infractions and irregularities of the Sub-Treasury Department of Region 2 and the system of award of contracts. Viewers, I think that we had a good session, and I want to thank you very much. Do have a blessed and wonderful night, and continue to support this program, advancing the cause, as tomorrow again I ask you to support the strike action taken by the Guyana Teachers Union. Thank you, may God bless you, and have a blessed and good night.